Hey, this is Tim Ashe, President of the Vermont State Senate, here on Sunday, and this is the third of 3 days of extending thanks and appreciation to people throughout the state who have really stepped up in these difficult times. So the last 2 days I have been passing along comments that have come to me from constituents and people throughout the state, suggesting people who should be recognized for the extraordinary efforts that they've been making. And today, I have actually received a bunch of thoughts from members of the Senate from all across the state who wish to pass along particular thanks and appreciation to people in their counties who have really stepped up in these very difficult times. So, without further ado, and this one will be a little bit shorter than my normal videos, which some of you may be grateful for. And then tomorrow I'll return to a more conventional update with information that's been coming in around the state on the state's response to the COVID-19 crisis, things that are helpful for people to know. I'll especially focus on support for small businesses and sole proprietors and independent contractors tomorrow and pass along what I know. So what I'm about to do is kind of travel around the state and offer thoughts that have come in from my fellow senators. And I think almost across the board, what they've indicated is that there are too many people to thank or to highlight. So this really represents a small selection of those who are stepping up in new ways to support their neighbors. I'll begin with Senator John Rogers. John lives in Glover and represents the Orleans-Essex County's Senate District. He says that he basically sends his thanks to all the healthcare workers in the state. His own wife is a registered nurse who normally works in a doctor's office, volunteered to work in the emergency room. He knows that she's not alone in doing this. And despite the anxiety about personal protective equipment and other higher risks of infection that they are experiencing right now, wanted to thank all the people at North Country Hospital and in the Northeast Kingdom. Senator Chris Pearson, who serves in the Chittenden Senate District along with me, thanks all of the school leadership throughout the state who've been wrestling through the COVID-19 crisis and stepping up. I'm going to get myself out of the sun here a little bit if I can. Let's, well, this is production team of one, and so that's what you get. He thanks all the school leadership across the state who have been stepping up and wrestling through this. Obviously, the healthcare workers, he says, and then on a more individual note, commends the Edmunds art teacher, Ms. Elliott, who's been putting up great blog posts and helping people, helping kids get the most out of this experience, which is obviously challenging, and also all the folks sewing masks in the community. Philip Baruth, who's also a senator from Chittenden County, commends Doug Davis at the Burlington School District for how he's handled food delivery for all the people who are no longer in their school setting and obviously need their nutritional needs to be met. Senators Brian Campion and Dick Sears down in Bennington County highlighted two groups, Dr. Trey Dobson and all the frontline staff at the Southwest Vermont Medical Center. We know that the first case in the state of COVID-19 infection actually was admitted to Southwest Vermont Medical Center in Bennington. I also wanted to thank the frontline staff at the Vermont Veterans Home for keeping our veterans safe who live there. Vermont Veterans Home, for those of you who don't know, is the state's designated medical/residential home for people who have a connection to military service, and he wants to commend, they both want to commend all the people there. Senator Ann Cummings, who's a senator from Washington County and lives in Montpelier, former mayor of Montpelier before beginning her service in the Senate, says it's important to recognize all the unsung heroes who are working to keep us safe and healthy, and then went on to say that The woman that she saw cleaning the pumps at Cumberland Farms today comes to mind. The plumber that unclogged a sewer line on Sunday morning. The grocery store workers, those making sure the homeless are fed and sheltered. There are just so many, she says, that we should be thanking, and I couldn't agree with her more. Senator Andy Perchlik, also from Washington County, says that one person who comes to mind is Beth of Central Vermont Council on Aging, who, along with her co-workers, are putting in extra time to provide the services, care, and protection their clients, who are all older Vermonters, need. He also references Paula Emery of Plainfield, who's taken on being the volunteer coordinator for the Plainfield Co-op grocery store. They're only doing curbside pickup. Volunteers are taking phone orders and delivering food to all those who can't get to the store for whatever reason. Rounding out the three senators from Washington County, Senator Anthony Polina, who lives in Middlesex, references both the large groups who are run by longtime leaders like Mary Moulton, and he's referring to the Washington County Mental Health Services, but also local folks, as he puts it, who are helping out and caring for their neighbors quietly. He references a 30-something-year-old neighbor, who I won't mention her name just to respect her privacy, who does weekly shopping trips to pick up things for older neighbors. Senator Becca Ballant, who lives in Brattleboro and is the majority leader of the Senate, references all the staff at the long-term care facilities in Windham County, and she references a few of them: Thompson House, Pine Heights, and Vernon Green Home. And we know that that work is especially important because the susceptibility of older Vermonters who are in frail health, who are more likely to to come down with COVID-19. Senator Dick McCormick lives in Bethel, highlights Bethel Vermont Strong. This is a volunteer group who have come together and organized to provide info, food, pickups, deliveries for homebound people, and general community supports to make sure people's needs are being met. So thank you, Dick, for calling out Bethel Vermont Strong. Allison Clarkson, who also is a Windsor County senator, she lives in Woodstock, cites John Spector, who's the chair of the Woodstock Economic Development Commission. They have set up 3 county-wide conference calls with 4 chambers of commerce and all their membership to keep businesses current on the COVID-19 response at the local, state, and federal level. We know small businesses have been very anxious, and rightfully so during this time. She also commends the Thompson Senior Center, which, in addition to keeping up and expanding Meals on Wheels, has rolled out a curbside lunch pickup program, and also says that all of the food shelves in her county, who have added hours and expanded services, and wanted to thank all of them on her own behalf, but also for the other senators from Windsor County. Senator Jane Kitchell, who chairs our Appropriations Committee, which writes the budget, lives in Danville. She acknowledges Shelley Towell, who manages the school meals program, and Lindsay Mitchell, who's an aide, and they're working with the school nurse at the Danville School and raise money to provide weekly food boxes to the families at highest risk of going hungry. This is all on top of the normal meal prep that they have at the school being delivered by volunteers. Senator Joe Benning, the other senator from Caledonia County, he lives in Lyndonville, references his second grade school teaching wife, who's volunteered to be on the school bus every day delivering meals to kids who might not otherwise get them. So thank you, Joe, for highlighting that. Senator Corey Parent, who represents Franklin County in the Senate, highlights the work of Janet McCarthy and her team at Franklin County Home Health. In particular, he commends them for setting up their own internal child care program for the kids of their employees so that the visiting nurses themselves can go out and take care of their patients in the home. So thanks, Corey, for sending along that. Ruth Hardy, who lives in Middlebury, is a senator from Addison County. She sends a shout out to everyone at Porter Medical Center and highlights the work of Chief Medical Officer Anna Benvenuto, the Hospital Communications Director Ron Hallman, Also points out all the grocery store workers. Also Kathy Alexander and her amazing food service team at Mount Abe and the Addison Northwest School District for feeding so many kids. And then also adds the Addison County Mutual Aid team. And like all of us, I think Phil says there are so many she could go on. She describes that as a start, so we'll ask her to finish that maybe for a subsequent video. Alice Nitka, who lives in Ludlow, is the third of the 3 Windsor County Senators. She says that the Black River Senior Center in Ludlow is continuing to deliver meals to those who can't get out. Black River Good Neighbors in Ludlow is providing services to many of the surrounding towns and coordinates shopping for people who can't get out because their health doesn't allow it or have transportation challenges. So thank you, Alice, for sending out your note about the Black River Senior Center and Black River Good Neighbors. Senator Michael Sorokin had a more personal note after a loss in the family. Says that the rabbi went out of his way to do a virtual burial and doing so in a way that provides social distancing and then allowed it to be broadcast in real time to many more family and friends. Also was able to coordinate a virtual Shiva, which was able to be zoomed to people throughout the country, making a difficult experience have the same power and emotion that they would have been able to experience had we not been under the COVID-19 crisis. Senator Chris Bray, who lives now in Bristol and is the second Addison County Senator, commends the work of Beas Wrap, which is a business in Middlebury. They make packaging using beeswax and technical processes that I won't even pretend to understand. But after shutting down their normal production line, they have been volunteering their materials and some of the staff to make masks. 2 Beas Wrap employees and about a dozen volunteers have been sewing them. Beas Wrap has put the cut materials together and they drop them off to the people who sew them. The first drop-off was made Friday with 300 masks delivered to the Open Door Clinic in Middlebury, which is a clinic that meets people's health needs regardless of their income. Senator Brian Collimore says he hates to call out any one individual because this has been a tremendous community-wide effort so far. Hear, Brian. I think we all agree. He wants to recognize all the healthcare professionals at Rutland Regional Medical Center. Regardless of the shift they're working, he says they're putting themselves at risk for themselves and their families each time they go into work, but because they do it because they care about their patients. There are also the workers in the food and grocery business and pharmacies who sometimes have to manage customers who are not always polite, who might be maybe stressed out. And for the most part, they do it with a smile and a stay safe expression. And then finally, he thanks the citizenry at large, who he believes are, in general, observing the guidelines and giving each other a thumbs up, and thinks that people are stepping up to obey the state's orders. Senator Richie Westman, who lives in Cambridge and is the Lamoille County lone senator, has a number of groups he wants to thank. He says the healthcare team overall in the county has been terrific, cites the work of the folks at Copley, the Home Health Agency, the Federally Qualified Health Center in Morrisville, Tamarack, the Manor Nursing Home, and the Lamoille Mental Health Organization. Jody Legacy, the infection control RN at Copley, he says, has done an outstanding job for the hospital and for home health. He also thinks about the maintenance guys at Copley that have built an ICU and created more negative pressure rooms so that the air in a room where someone might be infected won't service other rooms. He highlights the work of Paul Rogers, who's come out of partial retirement to volunteer his time at Copley. Thank you, Paul, or Dr. Rogers, I should say. And Smuggler's Notch Distillery, who have switched over their distilled beverage manufacturing over to hand sanitizer manufacturing in recent days, and believes they sent something like 2,000 bottles to the medical center last week, which is a pretty amazing haul in such a short period of time. And then finally, Senator Ginny Lyons, who serves alongside me in the Chittenden Senate District and lives in Williston, Wants to thank all those delivering food to kids at home, the Burlington wastewater treatment staff, who of course their work continues, and it's getting more challenging as more people are home and the demands on the system. And then the emergency department and hospital medical staff, both at UVM Medical Center and beyond. So I think in total, what you're hearing across the state are some unifying themes, which are people stepping up to help, whether they're in a healthcare setting, in a retail setting, people in our school districts who've quickly reacted flexibly to make sure that kids' needs are being met. And this is just a short list, but I thought it was a good way to end a weekend to really hear from all across the state what people are observing in their communities. And the 29 people I serve with have been required to go above and beyond in the sense that we have not just doing our normal work of trying to anticipate how the legislature can change the laws or provide funding to help people get through these difficult times, but have also been receiving thousands of emails and calls over the last 3 or 4 weeks with people with very specific needs and challenges and questions. And so I want to say a special thanks to all the people who I serve with who have really stepped up and heard the call to serve as I knew they would, but still challenging and stressful times for everyone, including the people who are elected in Vermont. I want to send a special recognition myself to the people at Converse Home in Burlington who are keeping my mother-in-law in good health, and all of the people that she lives with. They're doing amazing work there, and I just can't thank them enough. So tomorrow at 5:30, I'll return to a normal informational update where I'll be providing all of the most useful information I can gather over the course of the next 24 hours to make sure that you've got what you need, hopefully explaining it in a way that helps you utilize the information either to seek the benefits that you're eligible for, to navigate some of the state or federal programs which have been newly made available, or just to provide insights into what's going on. So I look forward to seeing you tomorrow, and I hope you continue to stay safe. Thanks.